It seems even botnet creators are susceptible to using bad default passwords.
Matt, let's hear about the botnet story that you found for us.
Yeah, this is pretty interesting. There's a researcher named Ankit Anubhav, I hope I'm saying that right, and he wrote about a conversation he had with somebody who claimed to have taken over 30 or so IoT botnets. The interesting story here is that it seems that these kits are being provided or sold on the underground, and people are they must be brand new at this, and they must be setting it up with default credentials or very weak passwords. So someone provides you the software and they give you a little tutorial that says set it up here, and you want to set it up with this username and this password, and they just sort of go with it because they're not technical.
So it's a little bit of a twist. Typically with botnets, whoever sets the botnet up, usually they're a little more technical savvy. They know kind of at least the basics.
They make the same kind of configuration mistakes that we warn our own developers and admins against making. So the end result is that people can brute force their way into a botnet, which is a little bit crazy.
That is nuts.
The guy who he talked to, this underground figure, gave a little more detail saying how he was able to collect the IP addresses for the C2, which makes a lot of sense. You set up a honeypot and you wait until it gets infected, and you look at where it calls back to, and then you go and you try and brute force the C2 on that box, which is usually something like SSH, or maybe there's a web panel or something. But it was pretty interesting, and it kind of reminds us that even if you're somebody who theoretically knows things about security, whether you're on the defense side or you're some hacker out there, people are still people, and people will still do things that are kind of boneheaded.
I guess that's sort of comforting in a way then.
I guess. I mean, it is and it isn't, because that means that anybody else can go out there and create a botnet, and then someone who's marginally smarter than them and has maybe read this article can go and steal it right away from them, and that's just one more botnet out there under the control of somebody who's obviously looking to do something with it. Not all cyber criminals are like supervillains and geniuses. Some of them are just buying kits, installing them off of a YouTube instruction set, and then running them like that.
So what we have here is we have the barrier to entry lowered, right? Because you could sort of off the shelf get your own botnet going.
Right.
But like you said, people are still people, and those who are a little less technical, if you will make the same mistakes that non or less technical people will make. Things that we see pretty often. Yeah. So, interesting.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, YouTube's full of these videos, isn't it, of how you can set up your own botnet and deploy your own malware and that kind of thing. So I'm not surprised that people deploying this aren't always the sharpest tools in the box. Yeah. I saw a piece of malware recently where it opens Windows Calculator when the spearfish was delivered. Because obviously they're taking the exploit code, but they hadn't packed in their own malware, so they just used the default settings, and all the victims got was this calculator was popping up on there.
Oh no.
Scary.
That's funny though. That's like the epitome of, insert something else here before you go use it, and clearly somebody didn't.
Yeah. I think on the law enforcement side, this is good news. Okay. Because if you were to, from the law enforcement perspective, you could do what you said, set up that honeypot, figure out what those C2s are, and then try to get into them yourself.
I don't think that law enforcement would necessarily go in and get into those things themselves unless they had some sort of legal authority to do so. In most cases, that's still breaking into somebody else's computer. Even if somebody else broke into it first, you are now breaking into it yourself. So
don't do that.
Don't do that, yeah. Let's go with don't do that.
Yeah, simple.
Yeah.
It's interesting that Japan's recently changed their law, so they're talking about doing that kind of thing now, giving their police the authority to go and hack into C2s and take them down. So, and then they will start seeing some of that happening as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, a little more teeth.
Given the international nature of the internet itself, can they only pop boxes that are physically located in Japan, or do they have the ability to do that for anything that threatens Japan? Where does that line get drawn?
Yeah, when they get a judge to sign that off, I'm sure they're going to have to be pretty careful about what they agree to.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot of gray.
I think the lessons are they're not for regular people for this story. They're more for people who are involved in research about botnets, that you may be up against something that was thrown together based off some very basic instructions with an incomplete understanding of how the software works.